Welcome back to At Your Service. Brad Young in with you this evening until 11 p.m. And, I'm an employer. I've got my law firms here in St. Louis. I've got employees, and many of them are working from home and coming in and then kind of doing this thing in between. So you've heard of this new employment environment. It's called hybrid workplaces. But what many don't know is what that means. And even if you do, this is such a new development, I believe, that most companies haven't learned what to do, what not to do, and how to make a hybrid workplace efficient, enjoyable, and even productive. So I reached out to Michael Kupps. He's the Senior VP of Marketing Globally with ActiveOps North America. It's a global company. It was a leader in the management process automation. Michael Kupps, welcome to KMOX Radio.
Hi, good evening, Brad. Thanks for having me join today.
Oh, it's my pleasure. Hybrid workplaces are the current flavor of the month for corporate America. But before we dive into all of that, Michael Kupps, in terms of what makes or breaks a hybrid workplace, let's define what we're talking about. So for folks who may not know, what is a hybrid workplace?
Yeah, good question. And it's overused a bit maybe these days in the news, but hybrid work is really choice, in my opinion. It's allowing the employees to work where they're comfortable, where they're productive, and frankly, where they're happy and well-balanced. So companies are looking for an environment which may have some of their employees in the office, some of their employees at home, but it's really a work from anywhere plan. And those employees aren't necessarily always at home. Maybe they're working 1 day a week or 2 days a week in the office and 3 days at home. Maybe some of them are working different shifts. Maybe they're not doing the 8 to 5. Maybe they're working 2 to 6 in the afternoon to accommodate that work at home lifestyle where they have kids or family members that they need to tend to. So it's really about flexibility. It's about choice, but it's also about adapting your work to allow that flexibility, but still get the work done and still perform as a company, because at the end of the day, for the company to survive, they need to embrace their employees' productivity as well as their well-being.
Yeah, and I'm going to get into some of these. There was an article in Inc. magazine this week, and I'm going to go through some of the things from that article. But, it just occurred to me, Michael Kupps, as I was thinking about this interview today, there's a great line from the first Jurassic Park movie where Jeff Goldblum's character says to billionaire John Hammond, "Your scientists were so preoccupied with whether or not they could, they didn't stop to think if they should." And that occurred to me. Are we seeing some of that today in corporate America as it relates to hybrid workplaces where they're jumping ahead because the technology's there without necessarily thinking through if it's best for their particular company and best for their employees?
I think that's a good observation, but I also feel like they're being pressured into it quickly, probably faster than they were ready to do. And like you said, the technology is there to enable it, because when the pandemic hit and everybody had to go work from home, it was pretty binary. And companies had to figure out how to accommodate that. Now, this hybrid work world, or this return to the office, is a new adventure for employers, because they've got employees that are maybe concerned about their safety, or employees that have found out they really like working from home and they're more productive. So what they're facing with, the employers are right now, is jumping to it. And many of them are jumping to conclusions that, quite frankly, could cost them, a year or two while they adapt to this in productivity and performance, because we've seen some big investment firms saying categorically everybody will be back in the office on this date. And what's happening now is you've also maybe heard the term the Great Resignation, because employees now have choice, and companies forcing something because they have a generalized view of what the future looks like, they're going to be in trouble.
Yeah, and that's an excellent observation. We're talking to Michael Kupps. He's the Senior VP of Marketing Globally with ActiveOps North America. And this Inc. magazine article that I mentioned that came out this week, it discussed some red flags that indicate potentially problems with a hybrid workplace. So I'm not going to go through the whole list, but I just want to mention some of the things in this particular article, Michael Kupps, to see what your take on these are. And one is that there's no senior leaders who work remotely. If that's in your company, if that's in Acme company where folks are working remotely, but there's no senior leaders who are doing that, is that a red flag? And if so, why?
Yeah, it's absolutely a red flag, because it's the old adage, what is it? Do as I say, not as I do. Yeah. And if you carry that out, what it says to the employee is that manager that is going to the office every day is still living in the old operating model. And that old operating model is not fit for purpose anymore because this new flexible environment. And so what they're making an assumption of is that they are trying to manage the way they used to, where, managers lost their biggest tool, which was their eyes and ears.
Yes.
And so they would walk the floor and talk to their employees or listen to them or catch up with them in the hallway over coffee or what have you. Now managers need a different paradigm for managing it, and if they're not actually out there living it with the employees, they're going to set a bad example, and that's going to reflect in the culture. Employees are going to see it, they're going to sense it, and they are going to seek options that are more comfortable for them. Culture is a big thing for employees these days, especially as the workforce is getting younger and there's an influence of just that connectedness wherever they are. So employers are going to have to adapt to that. And if they're going to manage the old way, then they're going to really have a challenge ahead of them.
You mentioned culture, Michael Cups. You mentioned culture. I have a law firm here in St. Louis, and with my employees, we do the same thing that probably most companies do. Someone has a birthday, we'll bring in a cake, we'll have a little bit of a celebration. I order in pizza probably once a month. If someone does something outstanding, I tell everybody, we brag on them. I'll take them out to lunch, pick up the tab, those kinds of things, just to let my employees know that I appreciate their hard work and I appreciate their dedication. But that kind of stuff only happens at the office. So how does the absence of that, if you've got a workforce who are working from their home, with their poodle on their lap while they're at home in their basement, how can that negatively impact the just the attitude and the inspiration for your workforce who is working from home?
Yeah, it's a good question, and it's challenging for managers because you're right. We've kind of grown up that when it's somebody's birthday, you celebrate in person, and you wish them a happy birthday, and all of that good stuff. The real world, though, evolved during the pandemic, good or bad. We learned that there's new ways of getting services, whatever that may be, whether it's delivering food to your home, getting groceries delivered differently at curbside, things like that. So the service industry adapted, and what I would urge managers to do is think about adapting that celebration system or reward system. It's really about rewards and building the culture. You can't treat people that are showing up to the office different than you treat the people that are working remotely because they choose to, or maybe there's a reason why they need to work remote. You have to have that reward system be flexible enough that you can still celebrate, whether it's a Zoom call that has both it's a hybrid call, where
Sure.
you have people in office and at home, and you've maybe delivered a cake to their house and you're still doing a celebration, and it includes all of those. Yes, it's going to be awkward at first. Yes, it's a little different, but people are getting used to it, and people understand that. And, I can't tell you the number of conferences I've attended where they've either shipped a bottle of wine to my house and, they have a happy hour at the end of it. And yes, it's different, but,
Sure.
The world's different now.
But it still conveys that same message that as an employer, I want my employees to know I appreciate them. I value their intellect. I value their service. I value their dedication, and I value their excellence. And that's a way to still convey that message, even if it's something that shows up via UPS.
That's exactly right. And it's as long as it's sincere and honest conversation, whether it's a reward system or a performance discussion, it should be based on kind of facts and data, and it should be fair across the playing field. Mm-hmm. So whether you're working at home and being measured for your work output or you're in the office, it shouldn't matter. The scorecard should be the same.
Excellent. Hey, we're talking to Michael Cups. He's the Senior VP of Marketing Globally with ActiveOps North America. And last question. One of the things in corporate America that's always been a factor is a person's career path. How they work up the corporate ladder to go from making at the low end of the totem pole when it comes to getting paid to actually earning a better living and being able to provide for your family. But having no career path for remote workers, at least from my perspective, that could also be a red flag, can't it? Yeah,
absolutely. If remote workers aren't presented with the same opportunities as somebody in person, then that's going to be a challenge for the culture. You're probably going to topple over top heavy on kind of playing favorites. What you have to implement is this transparency. You have to have the data to make decisions, measure everybody the same. So whatever the scorecard is, that is whatever good looks like, everybody should have the chance to achieve that good and feel in control of that good, which means managers got to be smarter about how they're distributing work, how they have conversations and coaching. And then you're going to have to find new ways to interact, because a lot of times when you think about promoting somebody, it's because you get to know them maybe over a glass of wine or a lunch or something like that, but you're getting to know them, and then you feel comfortable that they're ready to take that step. So managers are going to have to find ways to do that. And maybe that's not, you still do it in person, but maybe you just meet them for a cup of coffee for 30, 45 minutes, every other week or something like that. So you still get that in-person face
personal
time.
Connection.
Exactly. That connection can still stay there, but you still don't have to be in the office 9 to 5 in order to get that connection anymore.
Fantastic. And Michael Cupps, if people want more information about ActiveOps North America and what they might be able to do and what you might be able to do for their company, where can folks find you?
Yeah, absolutely. Thanks for that. We are ActiveOps, and you can find us at ActiveOps.com. We're a global company. We have a set of software solutions and a methodology for helping managers just make better decisions, so we can collect data in a unique way about people's time, people's work, and the well-being of that employee. And we feed that to managers in various dashboards, and it allows them to make smarter decisions in real time, or whether they're forecasting for the future. And so it's just about making managers smarter and more helpful overall. So I appreciate the time. And again, it's ActiveOps.com.
Exactly. Michael Cupps, Senior Vice President of Marketing Globally with ActiveOps North America. Hey, thanks for joining us this evening on KMOX.
Yes, thank you. Have a great evening.
And to you as well, sir. Thank you.